Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Finding the right homeschool curriculum can make or break your homeschool. Now, one of the drawbacks to finding a homeschool curriculum is that it can be all too easy to start relying on it too much and to start thinking that you have to follow it exactly as it is written. So today I'm going to share with you some tips on using your curriculum as your tool and not your master. You know, some people are totally fine with just using life as their curriculum. So they're more than happy to just not use any curriculum at all. But for most homeschooling parents, I found that we tend to like to rely on at least some portion of curriculum as kind of a security blanket almost. So one of the things that I have noticed in my own experience and something that happens with other people is that we become so convinced that we have to do everything that is in the curriculums exactly as it is written on the schedule that they give us, that we tend to start losing some of the perks of homeschool freedom. And that is something that you really don't want to do, because that is one of the best things about homeschooling, is the freedom that we have. So what I'm going to do right now is just start going over a few things that you can do that really will help you to just use your curriculum as a tool. And that's all that it should be. It should be a tool. It should never be something that rules over you, and it should never be something that completely defines your homeschool. So the first way that you can help your curriculum to be your tool and not your master is by ignoring that daily schedule. By what daily schedule are you wondering? I am talking about the one that comes with the curriculum. Most curriculums, whether they are textbooks, unit studies, literature-based curriculum, any sort of curriculum that I've seen, usually comes with some sort of daily schedule for you to use these lessons with your children. Now, some of these curriculums will come right out and tell you these are examples only, but others do make it sound like you have to use it on this schedule in order to get finished throughout the year. But that is why I am telling you, just ignore that schedule. If you have enough willpower to just look at that daily schedule for ideas on how you could do things, then go for it. But if you find yourself drawn to wanting to do it exactly as it is written, don't even look at it. Tear it out of your curriculum, tear it out of the manual, whatever it is that it's in, just get rid of it. Because the thing is that the curriculum writers who have come up with this daily schedule for you, they don't know your family. They don't know what your children can handle. They don't know what your daily responsibilities are. They don't know what your family schedule looks like. So to think that there is a one-size-fits-all schedule for everyone it's just not true. And if you try to stick to that schedule, you're bound to find yourself feeling like you want to pull your hair out every now and then when you're not on the day that you think you're supposed to be. So that is the very first thing that I am telling you to do. Ignore that schedule. Come up with something that works for you. The second thing that you can do to use curriculum as your tool and not your master is to choose only what you want to do in that curriculum. And again, this is regarding textbooks, it's regarding unit studies, it's regarding literature-based unit studies. It's really regarding any sort of homeschool curriculum that you can have. For example, if you are using a textbook, if you see that there is a section or a chapter coming up that your children have already covered, or that is something that you don't feel is really necessary and you know that it's not going to hold your kids' attention, you don't have to do it just because it's there. You can skip it. That is perfectly fine. Another thing is that you don't have to do all those section review questions at the end of the chapter with your kids. They don't have to do the list of 30 vocabulary words. That is something that is up to you. Just because it is there does not mean that you have to do it. The same thing goes with literature-based curriculum. Now, yesterday I unboxed Beautiful Feet books literature pack. It was for ancient history. And one of the things that I love about Beautiful Feet books is that it is written very sensibly, and they will tell you right in the manual that you do not have to do everything. You only do the things that you want. And that is exactly the case with all literature-based homeschool selections. Or even if it's not the activities in the literature-based curriculum, sometimes you might find that there are books included that maybe you know they won't hold your children's attention. Maybe they've already read it. Maybe it's something that you really don't want them to read. And these are all okay reasons not to do something. Again, there is no such thing as the curriculum police. They are not going to come knocking at your door if you don't do things just as it says to. So if you do find that you don't want your kids reading all of the books on the selections, that's fine. You have a few options. You can either substitute a book that you know your children would like, or you can choose just to move on to the next section. You are the one who is facilitating your homeschool. Remember that. This curriculum is a what? It's a tool. And the same thing goes, I'm going to move on to unit studies. Same thing there. If your unit study that you are doing with your kids looks like it has a lot of really hands-on, time-consuming, and sometimes expensive activities, does it mean that you have to do all of them? No. And you know what? Unit studies aren't even written to be used that way. Unit studies really are. If there is anything for you to pick and choose what you are going to do, that is exactly what unit studies are. That is why you are given so many options on unit studies, because the writers of unit studies realize that children learn in different ways. Families enjoy doing different things together. Some families are read aloud families. Other families are those hands-on Pinterest families. That is why unit studies will incorporate so many different types of activities. That is for you to decide. So again, no, you do not have to do everything in that unit study. Just choose what will work for you and what will work for your children. So the next tip that I have for you on using homeschool curriculum as your tool is to be flexible with the lessons. Now, as with the daily schedule, most curriculum comes with some sort of pre-written lessons. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat that I'm not someone who really uses those pre-written lessons. I really like to tailor everything to fit our family. So very often I will not even look at the lessons as they have them written out. The only curriculum that I actually do that with is Beautiful Feet books, just because their lessons are written so realistically that it's something that I know that I can handle. But here's what I want to remind you about those lessons. Just because it says lesson 1 or just because it says day 1 does not mean that you have to complete all of the activities listed in one day. And I know that a lot of times we start to think that. We think, okay, day 1, that means that we have to do everything on this day. No, what that means is that you could do everything on that day. If you choose to do everything on that day, if it works for your family, you could do everything in that one day. If you know that your kids would not be able to handle that, if you know that it would take too long, if you know that you have too many other things that you have to get done, you can cut those activities in half. Now, this is assuming that everything listed for that day is something that you want to do. You know, this is assuming that you haven't already cut out things that you don't really want to do with your kids. But if you still have a lot of things to accomplish for one day, by all means, cut that lesson in half. Day 1 or lesson 1 does not have to be just one day. You could do half of it and then you could complete the rest of it the following day. And yes, I even do that sometimes with Beautiful Feet books. If I find that there are a lot of things in that lesson that I want to do, but I know that we're just not going to have enough time, I will split that lesson in half. So you might be thinking, but what happens if I do that all year? What happens if I cut a lot of the lessons in half and then we end up not finishing the curriculum? Well, what's going to happen? Again, the curriculum police don't exist, so they're not going to come knocking at your door. There is no law, written or unwritten, that states that you must finish every single curriculum that you start. There isn't one, okay? Remember that. So you actually, again, have a few options for what you want to do if you haven't finished that curriculum. If you feel that you have covered that subject area enough and you would like to move on for the next homeschool year, even though you didn't finish it, by all means, that is at your discretion. If you think that your children would benefit from doing the rest of the curriculum, if you think that they would enjoy doing the rest of the curriculum, of course you can pick it up the following year. And this is why I really, really do enjoy doing curriculums that are not graded. Because you have that freedom of knowing that you don't have to worry about saying, oh, well, this is grade 3. How am I going to do grade 4 if I haven't finished grade 3? This is what I love about doing ungraded curriculums, because you don't have to worry about that. And yeah, you could still use the graded curriculums and then not worry so much about what grade level it says. And I've mentioned before that one of the people who commented here said that she puts a post-it note over the grade level. So yes, you could do that. But don't get hung up on that either. So just keep that in mind, all right? If you don't finish it because you've been cutting those lessons in half, it is not the end of the world. It is up to you to decide what to do. Do you want to just stop right there and move on? Or do you want to continue the next year? It's not the end of the world. So the last tip that I want to share with you for keeping your curriculum as a tool and not as your master is, a lot of us will purchase curriculum simply because we want to have that security of knowing that we have it to cover a subject. Very often it's a subject that we might not be very comfortable with. Just say, for example, biology. You might not feel so comfortable approaching biology in any way other than by using a textbook with it. But as time goes on, you might find that that textbook really isn't working for you. And the topics that are covered in that biology book might be perfect. They might be exactly what your homeschooler needs, exactly what they want to learn about, but it might be happening in that book in a way that just isn't doing it for them. So another option that you have is to use that table of contents in that textbook as a spine for a curriculum, but to disregard the rest of the textbook. Now, I do have a video on doing in more detail about how to do this, but the gist of it is that you will look at the textbook table of contents. You will make yourself a list of all the topics and subtopics that will be covered in that textbook. Then what you can do is take that list with you to the library. That is the first place that I would go, is to the library. And you can look up living books. Living books are biographies, autobiographies, quality fiction, classics, and non-fictions. Yes, even non-fictions, or sometimes they're called trade books. So what you can do is take that list with you to the library and get books at the library that cover these topics. But they will often cover them more in depth, which means that instead of your child just getting snippets of a subject area or a subtopic, they will be diving even deeper into it, especially if it's something that is really, really interesting to them. So for example, if your child is really, really into amphibians, they just love those salamanders, and if their textbook only covers them for one section, if you're just following the table of contents, you have that freedom to get out as many books on salamanders and newts and frogs as you want to, and your child can just have at it and really delve deeply into those areas that really hold their interest well. And you know, on top of the library books, you could also work in hands-on activities. You can find a lot of them on YouTube, a lot of them on Pinterest. And this last idea, yes, it is probably the most time-consuming as a parent, but if you are motivated to do it, I know some parents like to do this sort of thing. If you are motivated to do it, if you are motivated to help your kids learn in a way that is actually going to be engaging for them, this might be another thing that you want to think about if you really like the idea of having a textbook, but don't like what's actually in it. Use that table of contents. Just use that as a springboard to get started on an exciting subject for your children. So anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Sometimes it takes about a week because I only really get on it maybe about once a week to answer comments. I will do it though if you have a question. And if you like my work and you would like to support me on Patreon, I will include that link in the description box as well. And I hope you have a great day.